Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Addiesdive Ocean Monster. This watch is available from watchdives.com for $149 US. You can use the discount code WR4K and that will give you $10 discount off any watch on watchdives.com, providing the price is over $100 US. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the Addiesdive Ocean Monster comes in this black plastic pelican style case. I'll show you the interior of the case. Both halves are lined with two foam panels, and that protects the watch in shipping from any damage. I like this pelican style case. They're very durable and also very practical. So with regards to the other items, this is the plastic guarantee card. Now I'm pleased to report that, as with all watchdives.com watches, the Addiesdive Ocean Monster is covered by a 3-year international guarantee, which is very reassuring. One also gets this stainless steel push pin tool for resizing the bracelet pins. And one also gets this owner's instruction manual. Clear, concise diagrams, and the instructions are in English. It details the operation of the movement used in the piece, which is the Seiko NH36A automatic. And lastly, one also gets this Addiesdive tag with the watch. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Addiesdive Ocean Monster, and it's clearly an homage to the Seiko Monster, so very similar proportions, 42.2mm case diameter. It has a lug-to-lug measurement of 47.6mm, a thickness of 13.2mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the 2-button push flip-lock clasp. Now, the 2-button push flip-lock clasp is a clear cost-cutting measure, and it is a disappointment because, as you can see, it is unsigned. I would like to see Addiesdive use their brand emblem and also sign it with the Addiesdive brand logo, laser engraving it. So it's a real disappointment that it's sterile rather than being signed. I'll also draw criticism to the fact it only has 3 micro adjustment holes. I would like to see a longer clasp used with 4 micro adjustment holes, and that would allow for easier fine tuning of the length of the bracelet to get a better fit. So I'll show you the interior. This is a clear cost cutting measure. It is wholly unacceptable at any price point to use a pressed metal stainless steel clasp. This really should be solid milled stainless steel, and one would fully expect a solid milled stainless steel clasp at this price point, which is $149 US. It's wholly unacceptable to be using a pressed metal stainless steel clasp in 2021, and I think that this is a real disappointment with the watch, something that Addiesdive need to address. They need to upgrade this to a solid milled stainless steel clasp. But having said that, it does snap shut with a good positive click, and the flip lock also snaps shut with a good positive secondary click. So the build quality is okay, the execution of it is okay, but it is abhorrent and it is disappointing. It is also unsigned. With regards to the rest of the specification, double dome sapphire crystal, blue tinted AR coating on the underside, and the blue tinted AR coating has a lovely blue hue to it when one tilts the piece at an oblique angle, and I really like the blue tint of it. It's very nice to look at. The double domed sapphire crystal gives a nice characteristic distortion to it when one tilts it at an oblique angle, as you can see. Solid 316L grade stainless steel bezel, convex profile to it, which adds interest rather than being flat or concave profile. I like the convex profile, which curves downwards towards the double dome sapphire crystal. It adds interest to it. The bezel is knurled finish, as you can see, scalloped teeth and knurled to the exterior. And I like the brusque concentric satin finishing to it, and also the fully 60-minute tick indexing of the bezel. The first quarter up to the 15-minute mark are indexed with larger ticks as per the Seiko Monster, so it is a very good homage to it. The dial layout follows the classic Seiko Monster dial layout and also the Seiko style arrowhead hand. Day-date complication because it's the Seiko NH36A rather than the NH35A, which only has a date complication. Graduated dial, it's orange fading to black at the circumference rather than being fully orange as per the Seiko Monster. The chapter ring is 3-dimensional and 60-minute tick indexed as per the Seiko Monster, so it does a very good job of being an homage to the Seiko Monster. So let's test the crown action. Screw down knurled crown made from solid 316L grade stainless steel, knurled finish, and as you can see, signed with the Addiesdive brand emblem to a high standard. Let's test the action. Silky smooth, it's very impressive, and bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece, Addiesdive deserve full credit for producing a well executed crown. Characteristic pop of the Seiko NH36A automatic, which pushes the winding stem out of the movement in the first position. In the first position is the manual wind position, and one can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up to its maximum 40-hour power reserve, so it's an absolute pleasure to manually wind the NH36A. Pulling the crown out to the first click position is the day-date complication quick set position. Rotating the crown clockwise advances the quick set day complication, and as you can see it's bilingual both in Japanese and also in English. So that works as one would expect, rotating the crown clockwise. Rotating the crown anti-clockwise advances the date complication as one would expect. So the quick set date complication also works as one would expect. Pulling the crown out to the final click position is the time setting position. And the NH36A is silky smooth, and it's got very minimal resistance to the gearing. Absolute pleasure to set the time. The movement has hacking, and as you can see, looking at the second hand, it's now stopped dead. I've hacked the movement, so one can set the time precisely to the second. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate pickup, excellent. The interface between the internal thread of the knurled crown and the external thread of the crown tube is very good. It's a silky smooth thread action, very well executed screw down crown, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters. Right, so let's test the bezel action. 120 click unidirectional bezel as one would expect. Light resistance, it's lighter than on a Seiko Monster, so that may take some getting used to, but it does work very well. I like the fact it's even and consistent all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation. Nice loud audible clicks to the 120 click ratcheting mechanism. No lateral side-to-side play whatsoever. No back play whatsoever, so it's a very tight bezel action despite having lighter resistance than a Seiko. So let's just check the alignment. And it also aligns perfectly. The Lume pip and triangle align perfectly with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. So Addiesdive deserve full credit for producing a very well executed bezel action. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play, and perfect alignment. It's a very well made bezel. So let's look at the case back. Solid stainless steel case back made from 316L grade. Brushed satin finish to the centre section, engraved to a high standard with the Addiesdive brand emblem, and the circumference is engraved with the specification of the piece. Flawless mirror polishing to the circumference, which complements the flawless mirror polishing to the underside of the case. So it's a very flat and low profile screw down stainless steel case back, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters and feels very comfortable against the wrist. The solid end links are a good tight fit to the case, and they're also very comfortable against the wrist, and they deserve full credit because the quality of the brushed satin finishing to the end links is done to a very high standard. Now, with regards to the bracelet finishing, Addiesdive deserve full credit because the mirror polishing and the brushed satin finishing to the links is absolutely flawless. They've done a very good job with the finishing, the build quality, the quality control, and also the execution of the links is very good. Mirror polishing to the flanks, and we have push pins which make resizing the bracelet easy. Personally, I prefer to see screw pins used, but at this price point it is acceptable to use push pins, and some collectors actually prefer push pins because they do make resizing the bracelet easy. So the finishing to the bracelet is very nice, beautiful luster to the brushed satin finishing, and flawless mirror polishing to the centre links. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now I haven't sized the bracelet. I've simply taken the watch out of the watch box, and as you can see, I'm pleased to report that it does indeed fit my wrist. Now, it is a large piece and it does wear with wrist presence as one would expect. 42.2mm case diameter means it's a large head of the piece, but it's surprisingly low profile. It's only 13.2mm including the dome sapphire crystal. So it will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts, so it is an ideal daily wear piece. Now, it is aesthetically pleasing and it does do a very good job of being an homage to the Seiko Monster. I like the orange graduated dial, which contrasts beautifully with the printed indices, which are fully lumed with C3 Superluminova, as are the black Seiko style hands. Good looking piece, and I also like the blue tint of the AR coating, as I've discussed. It does add interest to the double dome sapphire crystal, and it also is highly effective in reducing the reflective nature of it. Now it is a heavy piece, 191 grams, which is very heavy, even for a 42mm, and that's something to bear in mind. I would say to you, this really is best suited to a collector with a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches, due to the 42mm head of the piece and also the wrist presence and heft. 191 grams with all the links in the bracelet is very heavy. Now of course, if you have a smaller wrist such as 6 to 7 inches, you will remove 4 or 5 links from the bracelet, and that will significantly reduce the 191 grams to circa 150 to 160 grams, therefore making it more comfortable to wear. But even at 150 to 160 grams, it does feel like a top heavy piece. And really for that reason, I would say that it's best suited to collectors with a 7 to 8 inch wrist, rather than collectors with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches. 47.6mm really is close to perfection. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I regard 48mm lug to lug measurement to be the sweet spot, so at 47.6 it is quite a short lug to lug measurement for 42.2mm head of the piece. The 20mm lug width is correct. It gives a nice balance between the 42mm head of the piece, and the slight taper of the bracelet down to the clasp works very well. So it is a top heavy piece, although it's not tall at 13.2mm, but it does wear with wrist presence and it does wear with heft, so that's something to bear in mind. Comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day, because despite the heft, it's got a very smooth and flat low profile stainless steel case back, as I've shown you. So it's a comfortable piece to wear, but it is heavy and it is also top heavy on wrist. I think the comfort level could be further enhanced by putting it on a NATO strap, alternatively a rubber strap, which would significantly reduce the heft down to circa 150 grams and therefore make it more comfortable and less top heavy. Right, so let's test the Lume, and as always I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to its absolute peak. So this uses C3 Super Luminova, which is a personal favourite of mine, and I've got high expectations of it. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. The C3 Super Luminova is top grade, both on the printed indices and also the Seiko arrow style hands. It's glowing brightly and it's continuing to glow for a good length of time. I'll describe it as similar in performance to Seiko Lume Bright, which is outstanding Lume in terms of its brightness and the length of time it's glowing. The Lume pip on the stainless steel bezel is also glowing very brightly, and I think they've got the colour matched very good between the hands and also the printed indices. However, the Lume pip on the stainless steel bezel does appear to be brighter, so I think they may have mixed in some C1 into the C3 to give it extra brightness, but that is acceptable because the performance is outstanding and the colour match is still close enough to the hands and the printed indices, so I'm very impressed with the quality of the Lume. It really is very close to Seiko Lume Bright, and they deserve full credit for this because this is $149 US. It's significantly less expensive than a Seiko Monster. Right, so let's discuss the movement used in the piece. So this Addiesdive Ocean Monster uses the Seiko NH36A. So the architecture of the NH36A is very similar to the NH35A, which you'll all be familiar with. The only difference is it has an extra wheel added to the movement. It has a day-date complication rather than just having a date complication as per the NH35A. 24 joules, it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which is used for complications, and a 40-hour power reserve, which is perfectly acceptable. The stated accuracy of the NH36A is -20 to +40 seconds per day. Now I'm pleased to report that this one has been very well regulated and it's running consistently at +8 seconds per day, which is perfectly acceptable and well within the -20 to +40 second per day stated accuracy. So to get +8 seconds per day from a watch that costs $149 US is perfectly acceptable, and Addiesdive deserve full credit for using well regulated Seiko NH36A movements. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse movement, and really I think it's the correct choice for a Seiko Monster Homage because it has the day-date complication and I like the reliability of it, and the 40-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. Right, so lastly I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price points. Now, this is a difficult piece to weigh up because there are some positives and there are some negatives to the piece. I'm going to say it's okay quality and okay value. And why do I say it's okay rather than being good or excellent? Well, the main disappointment of the watch is the unsigned 2-button push flip-lock clasp, as I've discussed. Really, this is the biggest disappointment of the watch, the pressed metal stainless steel clasp, as you can see. Had they used a solid milled stainless steel clasp, then I would have said that this was both excellent quality and excellent value, because the bezel action, the crown action are both excellent, and the C3 Superluminova is also excellent. So they are three aspects that one uses to equate a watch, whether it's okay, good or excellent quality and value. But this clasp really lets the watch down. Now, there is something else which I want to point out, which is very irritating. If you look at the scallops, the cutouts on the bezel and also the flanks of the case, it has a shrouded case. As you can see, the case shrouds the 12 o'clock and also the 6 o'clock bezel as per the Seiko Monster. And on the left hand and right hand flank we have three cutouts, three scallops on both the bezel and the flanks of the case. But they're supposed to match, as you can see, they're supposed to align correctly. Now, this is with the bezel aligned correctly. The Lume pip and triangle is perfectly aligned with the 12 o'clock index on the dial, as one would expect. But the scallops, the three cutouts on the flank and the bezel, don't align. As you can see, they're misaligned. Now, if I rotate it by one click, now it's aligned. You see the way the scallops line up on the bezel and also the flanks, and it's the same on the other side. As you can see, the scallops align here and they also align here. Problem with this is the Lume pip and triangle is now misaligned with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. It's one click anti-clockwise, so it doesn't look correct. So this is something that's very frustrating about the watch, because if one wants to wear it correctly and have the scallops aligned, the three scallops on the 9 o'clock side and the two scallops on the 3 o'clock side, if you want those aligned, the bezel has to be rotated one click anti-clockwise and be misaligned. So I'll just demonstrate it again. I'll align the bezel correctly and then you'll see the problem clearly. And this is something that's very disappointing, because it's something that would have been so easy to get correct if they'd got the machining of the bezel matched to the case, the flanks, the scallops. So that's now perfectly aligned. The 12 o'clock Lume pip aligns perfectly with the 12 o'clock index. But again, if you look at the three scallops, the bezel scallops don't align correctly with the three scallops in the case. And this is something that Seiko get correct. Despite having several misalignment problems, Seiko has QC problems as well. They often get the chapter ring misaligned, they get the bezel insert misaligned. They're known for this. So I'm going to draw criticism to Seiko because their alignment is also incorrect. But one thing they do get correct on the Seiko Monster every time is the two scallops on the 3 o'clock side align with the flanks of the case, and the three scallops on the 9 o'clock side align. As you can see, these are misaligned. So again, this is something that really Addiesdive need to address. They need to get the scallops on the bezel aligned correctly with the scallops on the flanks, because it just doesn't look correct. Now on wrist it is noticeable, because when wearing it on the wrist, I'll just demonstrate it actually to clarify it. When wearing it on wrist, one is constantly looking at the 9 o'clock flank of the case. I'll just show you, as you can see. And once you see it, you're conscious of it constantly. As you can see, if you look, they just don't align. And it's very eye-catching, because you're constantly looking at because it's a relatively large flank piece, you're constantly looking at the misalignment of the bezel with the flank of the case, and I really dislike that. It's something very irritating. So this is one of the reasons why I'm going to declare it okay value and okay quality rather than being good quality and good value. It's a shame really, because the watch has a lot of potential. If it had a solid milled stainless steel clasp, if the clasp was signed with the Addiesdive brand logo engraved, and if they had got the alignment correct of the bezel to the flank with the cutouts, I would have said yes, it is good quality and good value, or even excellent quality and excellent value, due to having excellent lume, the bezel action and also the crown action being excellent. So I'm going to recommend it to you for your consideration, but bear in mind those issues, bear in mind the shortcomings and the cost-cutting measures, things to consider when purchasing the watch. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Addiesdive Ocean Monster. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.